We are playing the wrong game. Our incentive structure favors the wrong side of the prisoner's dilemma, and we need to play a new game. Let's get into what the prisoner's dilemma is, why incentives matter, and what game we really should be playing. The prisoner's dilemma shows up throughout all of our culture. Mr. Beast uses this tactic a lot in his videos.
Bailey and Susie, take your blindfolds off. So, you might be familiar with what we're about to offer you. You each have the choice to split the money, and nothing changes. You both hit split, you just split it, keep what you have. Or, if you hit steal, you can steal the other person's money. And if you both hit steal, you would get nothing.
The prisoner's dilemma shows up in social media beauty filters, artificial intelligence regulation, and even nuclear treaties. But what is the prisoner's dilemma, and why is it so ingrained in our society?
This game is now known as the prisoner's dilemma. So let's play a game. A banker with a chest full of gold coins invites you and another player to play against each other. You each get two choices. You can cooperate or you can defect. If you both cooperate, you each get 3 coins. If one of you cooperates but the other defects, then the one who defected gets 5 coins and the other gets nothing. And if you both defect, then you each get a coin. The goal of the game is simple, to get as many coins as you can. So, what would you do?
This game seems simple and inconspicuous, but the way our society's incentives are set up leads us down a spiraling path, a race to the bottom. See, there are 3 outcomes to the prisoner's dilemma. Both people win, one person wins and one person loses, or both people lose. If nobody wins, nobody is happy. If one person wins and one person loses, there's a power dynamic between the two, no matter which side wins or loses. But if both parties win in social media, artificial intelligence, nuclear treaties, and a host of other things, then everybody on Earth wins. The problem with our society right now is bad incentives leading to power differentials, one side winning and one side losing.
We've seen the emergence of war, the warnings of nuclear weapons use.
Nuclear war cannot be won.
We've seen the failure of COP27 to come up with any serious attempts to curb the activities of the fossil fuel industry. And we've seen the emergence of new artificial intelligence capabilities, which we still haven't really grasped the full extent of the risks that that has for humanity.
The scientists and experts have called on the world to act, declaring AI an existential threat to humanity on a par with the risk of nuclear war.
We are guided by incentives that our culture sets for us. These problems incentivize us to get what's ours, while leaving our fellow human behind, or stepping over them completely.
Unhealthy competitive situations. So by that I mean like a system of bad incentives that incentivize agents within that system, players within that game, to sacrifice more and more of their other values in order to win the game. And by doing this, they're essentially taking selfish actions that externalize harms to everybody else, both within that game and also to the wider system as a whole, and hence making the game a negative sum thing.
These misguided incentives show up everywhere around us, leading us to win-lose metrics, where one person wins and the other one loses.
These short-term incentives to do this thing that like either sacrifices your integrity or something else in order to like stay competitive, which on aggregate creates this like sort of race to the bottom spiral where everyone else ends up in a situation which is worse off than they were before. But they're all stuck in the same dilemma of, if I don't use this tactic, I'll get outcompeted by all the others who do. So I have to do it.
This creates a system in which half always lose. 50% always lose. How can we have a society that's sustainable when half of the population always loses? Once you've identified the problem, I really enjoy to focus on the solution. The solution has many different names: finite and infinite games, game B, win-win, and a system that I like to call BIOTE, for symbiotics. Finite and infinite game is defined by James P. Carse. A finite game is a game with winners and losers. and clear rules, like any sports, politics, or even war. An infinite game is a game with no rules and no winners or losers. Infinite games like gardening or even life if you choose it to be that way. Game A and Game B are explained, where Game A is our current system of never ending consumption, and Game B is a system in which we thrive alongside nature and the natural systems that govern it. The most recent idea by Liv Boré is the win-win system, in which everybody can win. The win-win dynamics would create a better and more sustainable life. This idea goes by many names, but the reason I renamed it Biote is because this system in which I describe has such close ties with nature that we already have terms to explain it. Mutualism is a symbiotic relationship where both species benefit. Commensalism is a system where one species benefit and the other species is unaffected. Parasitism is a symbiotic relationship where one species benefits and the other is harmed, like Game A, the finite game, win-lose metrics, and many other aspects of our current society.
So, in fact, Axelrod showed that a little island of cooperation can emerge and spread, and eventually will take over the world, which is fantastic. How can cooperation emerge in a population of players who are self-interested, who are not trying to be good because they're good-hearted? You don't have to be altruistic. You could be looking out for number one for yourself and your own interests, and yet cooperation can still emerge.
Some argue that this could explain how we went from a world full of completely selfish organisms, where every organism only cared about themselves, to one where cooperation emerged and flourished. From impalas grooming each other to fish cleaning sharks. Many life forms experience conflicts similar to the prisoner's dilemma, but because they don't interact just once, both can be better off by cooperating. And this doesn't require trust or conscious thought either, because the strategy could be encoded in DNA. As long as it performs better than the other strategies, it can take over a population.
Commensalism and mutualism are essential in the Biote system that will help us to restructure our society. These ideas are prevalent everywhere, but I think the best way to describe the solution is through the game Tetris.
This would become almost a fundamentally different type of challenge than any previous one in the game. Instead of being rivals, the player and the game will be working together as a team, with the player doing everything they can to ease the burden of the game's ancient code limping along, keeping them both alive. If both the player and the game survived every pitfall, the final level they would reach is level 255, with a glitched color scheme of pure red. This is the last level that can be stored in the game's memory, and things are so unstable that 5 of the 7 pieces in the game could trigger the crash when falling normally, so the player basically has to push down on every piece to survive. So what happens when the level clears? It loops right back around to level 0. The game officially resets back to the beginning. If the original kill screen was the game's way of beating the player, and the true kill screen was the player's way of beating the game, beating level 255 is the rebirth screen, with both the player and the game emerging triumphant together. If it can be done someday, it will be the ultimate final achievement.
We need more symbiotic relationships in our lives. Biote systems where everybody wins. It's not just about nature winning or technology winning, but both of those systems walking hand in hand, meeting together to create a better future for all people, all of humanity, not just the people that make the rules, but everybody. The tricky part is, we have to individually and collectively choose these options. You have to choose. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to choose the way we've been currently living, that you can see all the problems with right now? Or are you going to choose a new way of being, a new way of living, a way where we can all walk each other home? Thank you. Hit those buttons, and I'll see you next time.